His name is the Boogeyman, and he's coming to get ya. No, wrestling fans, not that Boogeyman. It's a different one. So The Boogeyman was directed by Rob Savage, and it's the latest in a long line of Stephen King works that are getting the big screen treatment. We follow high school student Sadie Harper alongside her younger sister Sawyer, who is played by the young girl from the Obi-Wan Kenobi show that came out last year. And they're still reeling from the recent death of their mother. And they're not getting much support from their father, Will, a therapist who's dealing with his own intense pain. He's played here quite well by Messina. But when a desperate patient, played by David Dastmalchian, unexpectedly shows up at their house seeking help, he leaves behind a terrifying supernatural entity that preys on families and feeds on the suffering of its victims. Now, this is the summertime after all, so this theater was jam-packed out the wazoo. There were a lot of people in this auditorium, a lot of people very excited to be there. School has just been let out. This is a PG-13 scary movie also, so it's a lot more accessible to a general audience. And I gotta say, I feel like this auditorium was filled tonight with much more of a casual scary movie audience, because the majority of the people in here were frightened by this movie. And you know what? I'll give this movie credit where it's due. In addition to the great acting, brilliant direction, and really great cinematography, the jump scares I thought were executed quite well, especially if it scared the bejesus out of the majority of my audience at every turn. It did a pretty effective job. But as I've said many times over here on my channel, and I've talked about a lot of horror movies in the 3 years I've been doing this, but fear is very much a subjective thing. There's not a whole lot of people who are gonna walk out of The Boogeyman that frightened by it, or really that blown away by it in any facet, and I sadly fall into that camp. The Boogeyman, I would say, at best, is passable. Now, as I've mentioned, there are good things about this movie, like the performances, and I was getting super wrapped up in the family drama that was going on, and subsequently moving on and reaching that acceptance phase of the 5 stages of grief. It's a really hard thing to do that, unfortunately, we all had to inevitably encounter at one point or another in our lives. And I think this movie handles that aspect really well, alongside the jump scares, which, again, I do think were pretty well handled for the most part, pretty well directed. But honestly, yeah, there were a lot of elements to The Boogeyman that left a lot more to be desired. And it's not really gonna stand out amongst the best of the scary movies this year even. Because this one doesn't really do anything to reinvent the wheel in terms of what a scary movie can be. Yeah, you do have some fun Stephen King-isms like a revenge-filled climax. And you do get your cliche mean girl characters who are hounding on Sadie, who is the heart and soul of this movie. But man, it's like I'm sitting here and this movie theater chain that I went to tonight really seemed to want me to watch The Boogeyman, because they played the teaser trailer for this movie before a lot of other things earlier this year. And it's the little girl from the Obi-Wan show, Sawyer, throwing that little light moonball thing under her bed and seeing the creature underneath it in the jump scare. And that far and away was the best jump scare of the movie. I feel like the advertising definitely blew their load on this. And I don't know if it has to do with the fact that this is PG-13 and it might have benefited the movie to be rated R, or it might have to do with the fact that a lot of these story elements and story beats just feel so derivative to other scary movies that I've seen in the past, and not to mention have definitely handled a lot of this story better than The Boogeyman does. Which I should address it. The monster in this movie that everybody's supposed to be so scared of, and the darkness aspect of it, and how it feeds on vulnerability, and it hates the light and doesn't go anywhere near the light. But in terms of character design, there are some cool aspects to it, but honestly, I was just looking at it, and it's almost like if the monster from A Quiet Place had a baby with the Mind Flayer from Stranger Things. And I swear, I'm not making this up. It's almost like the first reveal of the monster is exactly like they do the Mind Flayer in Stranger Things. It's actually kind of crazy how photo-identical these two are. So even though The Boogeyman is far from horrible and it is helmed pretty well, definitely got the right performers for these parts, and everyone is certainly on their game for this, there's just nothing really overly remarkable that this movie does that makes you want to remember it for years to come. I'm gonna give The Boogeyman a C+. Overall, I'm glad I saw the movie once. Don't really feel the need to see it again, though. Let me know what you thought of the Boogeyman down in the comments section below, and let me know what your favorite Stephen King adaptation of all time is. Let me know what your favorite Stephen King novel is. Lots of things that we can discuss over here on the regular in terms of cinema and all things entertainment. If you like discussing all these fun topics, this channel is the place to be, trust me. So do consider becoming a subscriber, and please tap that like button on your way out. Really helps with the algorithm and helps spread this content out to more lovely viewers like you. But guys, y'all are the best. Stay tuned for more videos very soon through a stacked month of June over here. Should be a fun ride, guys. So with all that being said, back talk, commence.